Where is she?
Look, it may take a while. If you want to wait, there's a bench over there.
I'll be back.
What if one of the greatest sci-fi movies ever made almost never existed? A struggling director sold his script for just $1. The ending audiences love was completely different. The original Terminator wasn't Arnold Schwarzenegger, and the entire production often felt more like a guerrilla operation than a Hollywood film set. Here are the 15 secrets behind The Terminator, 1984, that changed movie history forever. Fact number 15. James Cameron sold the script for just $1. Today, James Cameron is known as the visionary behind Titanic, Avatar, and two of the biggest blockbusters in history. But in 1984, he was an unknown filmmaker desperate for a chance. No studio was eager to hand a major science fiction movie to an inexperienced director. Instead of chasing a big payday, Cameron made an extraordinary gamble. He agreed to sell the screenplay for just $1 to producer Gail Ann Hurd. In return, he demanded one condition that mattered more than money. He had to direct the film himself. It was a risky move. If the movie failed, his career might have ended before it truly began. But that $1 deal gave Cameron complete creative control, and the result launched one of cinema's most influential franchises. Sometimes, believing in your own vision is worth far more than any paycheck. Fact number 14. The original ending was completely different. Most fans remember the Terminator ending with Sarah Connor driving into the approaching storm, symbolizing an uncertain future. But originally the story didn't stop there. The deleted ending showed workers recovering the destroyed Terminator's remains from the factory and delivering them to Cyberdyne systems for research, directly revealing the origin of Skynet years before Terminator 2. James Cameron ultimately removed the entire sequence. Ironically, cutting that scene made the ending far more mysterious and allowed T2 to reveal Cyberdyne's role in a much more powerful way. Sometimes what a director leaves out is just as important as what stays in the movie. Fact number 13. Arnold Schwarzenegger wasn't James Cameron's first Terminator. Long before Arnold became the face of the franchise, James Cameron imagined a completely different killer. His original choice was Lance Henriksen, an actor with an ordinary appearance who could disappear into a crowd before striking without warning. To help sell the project, Henriksen even attended a meeting with investors fully in character, silently intimidating everyone in the room. Although Arnold was eventually cast, Henriksen's unforgettable performance helped convince people that Cameron's terrifying vision could actually work. Fact number 12. The movie was hit with a lawsuit. Not long after its release, The Terminator found itself at the center of a major legal controversy. Science fiction writer Harlan Ellison claimed the film borrowed ideas from 2 episodes of The Outer Limits that he had written decades earlier. Rather than risk a lengthy courtroom battle, the studio settled the dispute and added Ellison's name to later releases of the film. Even today, it remains one of the most famous copyright controversies in science fiction history. Fact number 11. The movie was filmed like a guerrilla operation. With only a modest budget, James Cameron couldn't afford massive sets, long street closures, or expensive production schedules. Instead, the crew often rushed into real locations, filmed scenes as quickly as possible, and packed up before anyone questioned whether they had permission. That unconventional approach gave the Terminator its raw, gritty atmosphere. Ironically, the lack of money became one of the film's greatest strengths, making 1984 Los Angeles feel frighteningly real and helping create one of the most iconic science fiction movies of all time. Fact number 10. The T-1000 was originally planned for the first movie. One of the most unforgettable villains in movie history, the liquid metal T-1000, almost appeared years earlier. While writing The Terminator, James Cameron had already imagined 2 different killing machines. The first was the heavily armored T-800. The second was a shape-shifting robot made entirely of liquid metal that could flow through bars, mimic other people, and repair itself instantly. There was just one problem. The technology simply didn't exist. In 1984, the visual effects required to bring such a character to life were impossible on the film's modest budget. Rather than compromise his vision, Cameron put the idea aside. 7 years later, advances in computer-generated imagery finally made the T-1000 possible, turning Terminator 2 into a groundbreaking visual masterpiece. Sometimes, the best ideas simply arrive before technology is ready for them. Fact number 9. Arnold Schwarzenegger speaks only about 58 words. For the star of the movie, Arnold Schwarzenegger surprisingly says almost nothing. Throughout the entire film, the Terminator delivers only around 58 words of dialogue. Instead of long speeches or emotional conversations, James Cameron wanted the machine to communicate through silence, cold expressions, and relentless determination. Ironically, what could have been seen as a limitation became one of the character's greatest strengths. Every word carried weight, making the Terminator feel less like a human and more like an unstoppable force that never wasted energy speaking. Sometimes, saying less creates a far greater impact. Fact number 8. Arnold trained himself to move like a machine. Arnold didn't just play a robot. He studied how to become one. Before filming began, he spent weeks practicing with firearms until every movement looked perfectly mechanical. He learned to reload weapons without looking down, maintain the same rigid posture while walking, and even trained himself not to blink while firing guns. Every motion was carefully controlled, almost like a programmed sequence running inside a computer. Those tiny details are why the T-800 still feels believable decades later. Arnold wasn't trying to act like a villain. He was trying to eliminate every trace of human behavior. Fact number 7. The movie became a massive box office surprise. No one expected The Terminator to become a worldwide phenomenon. Made for only about $6.4 million, the film went on to earn more than $78 million at the global box office, an extraordinary return for a relatively small science fiction thriller. Critics praised its suspense, audiences embraced its unforgettable characters, and word of mouth turned it into one of the biggest sleeper hits of the decade. That incredible success transformed James Cameron from an unknown filmmaker into one of Hollywood's most exciting new directors, and proved that imagination could accomplish what massive budgets sometimes couldn't. Fact number 6. The Terminator was born from a nightmare. Every legendary story has a beginning, but few begin quite like this. While recovering from a high fever after working on Piranha 2, James Cameron experienced a terrifying dream. He saw a chrome skeleton emerging from flames, crawling relentlessly toward its victim. The image haunted him long after he woke up. Instead of forgetting the nightmare, Cameron grabbed a notebook and began building a story around that terrifying vision. That single dream eventually became The Terminator, a film that redefined science fiction and introduced one of cinema's most iconic villains. It's remarkable to think that one fever dream ultimately changed movie history forever. Fact number 5. O.J. Simpson was nearly cast as the Terminator. It's hard to imagine anyone other than Arnold Schwarzenegger playing the T-800, but he wasn't the only actor under consideration. One surprising name discussed by Orion Pictures was O.J. Simpson, who was one of America's biggest sports stars at the time. According to producer accounts, the studio ultimately rejected the idea because they believed audiences would find Simpson too friendly and too likable to accept as a cold-blooded killing machine. Looking back after the infamous events of the 1990s, that casting decision has become one of Hollywood's most ironic what-if stories. Fact number 4. Arnold Schwarzenegger was originally considered for Kyle Reese. Ironically, Arnold didn't walk into the project expecting to play the villain. The studio initially wanted him to audition for Kyle Reese, the human soldier sent back in time to protect Sarah Connor. But during his meeting with James Cameron, Arnold became fascinated by the Terminator instead. He began explaining how a machine should move, fight, and think with absolute precision. The more Cameron listened, the more he realized Arnold wasn't describing the hero. He was describing the perfect killing machine. That conversation changed movie history forever. Fact number 3. I'll be back almost became I will be back. One of the most famous movie quotes of all time almost sounded completely different. Arnold worried that saying I'll be back sounded awkward with his strong Austrian accent. He suggested changing the line to I will be back, believing it would be easier to pronounce. James Cameron refused. He insisted the Terminator wasn't supposed to speak like a normal person choosing words. It was simply repeating programmed language. Arnold eventually agreed, and those 3 simple words became one of the most recognizable catchphrases in cinema history. Fact number 2. A low-budget film created a global icon. When The Terminator premiered in 1984, few people expected it to leave such a lasting mark on popular culture. What began as a modest science fiction thriller evolved into a franchise spanning multiple sequels, television series, video games, novels, and comics. More importantly, it transformed Arnold Schwarzenegger into an international action superstar and established James Cameron as one of Hollywood's most visionary filmmakers. Few low-budget movies have ever changed the industry so dramatically. Fact number 1. One small movie changed science fiction forever. Nearly every obstacle stood in the film's way. Limited money, difficult production, uncertain casting, and technology that couldn't yet match James Cameron's imagination. Yet against all odds, The Terminator became a cultural phenomenon that continues to influence filmmakers more than 4 decades later. Its unforgettable characters, revolutionary storytelling, and timeless themes about artificial intelligence still feel remarkably relevant today. Sometimes, the greatest legends don't begin with unlimited resources. They begin with one bold idea, one determined filmmaker, and the belief that the impossible can become reality. More than 40 years after its release, The Terminator remains one of the most influential science fiction films ever made. Behind every unforgettable scene was a risky decision, a lucky break, or an impossible challenge. Which fact surprised you the most? Let us know in the comments, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more incredible movie secrets.